I'm Flo, I'm 17 years old, I'm in year 12 and I live in North London. So I grew up in a Christian family, which means I was always very aware of the Christian faith, and I was able to see all my three older sisters become Christians. And so I was really inspired by that, and I think that's part of what made me a Christian, and also going on camps really made me take things seriously. I would probably just say Jesus defines my faith and my belief in an eternal life that I know I can have trust in. So I obviously have the traditional values of peace, hope, love, trust, but I think I also really value being distinctive. So I went on a youth weekend away recently and they challenged us to be distinctive and not be afraid to stand out, and I think that's really had a big impact on me, and I'm not afraid now to be distinctive. When I meet up with my friends, other friends who are Christians, without having to be with youth leaders or in church, that's really helped me grow my faith, because you're not having to answer the questions in the way you want to. You can just talk about whatever you want and you can feel like it's really trusting, and then that gives you the encouragement to live that week for Jesus. On Monday to Saturday, I think it's so wonderful that I can just have someone who I can talk to and pray when I'm worried about things, or I can have comfort that things I'm worried about aren't actually as big of a deal as they seem to be. I also think I have the strength to be able to just not be ashamed to tell people what I'm doing on the weekend. Like, oh, what did you do on Sunday? I'll be like, oh well, I went to church. I moved to a new school for sixth form, and it's a Christian school, which means whilst all my friends aren't necessarily Christians, they're all really respectful of me. Every now and then there will obviously be people who are unkind towards me, but I've realised that those aren't the people who you're going to get on super well with anyway. And also someone once said to me, Flo, God is so big, he doesn't need you to defend him. And so I think that really helps me not to get angry or upset with people. At school, having Jesus in my life can mean that, although I'm still stressed about my exams, of course, I can just take a deep breath and be like, I know there's a plan for me and I know I will be okay. I need to not worry about this so much. And having seen other people in my family grow up and have plans set out for them and things that didn't work out for them but then opened a whole new door, I know that things like that will happen for me as well. Also at school we had a Christian union, and I was a bit too nervous to join because I was like, oh, that might be weird, like I might not enjoy it. But then I had a friend who was also Christian and we were like, oh, let's just go together. And then we went, and it was the most amazing thing. There were loads of girls in the year above who were really inspiring. They had so much to tell us and they were really similar to us, like there was no reason to be nervous of that. So I was able to spend the rest of my day feeling so comforted and just not getting worried about anything and not being at all ashamed of the fact that I went to Christian Union. I tell everyone about it now. My favourite Bible verse, even though it's a really typical one, is 1 Peter 5:7. It says, cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. And I have it on a post-it note amongst all my million revision things on my wall, and that can really help me just take a deep breath and calm down. And there's also a song by Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir called My Life is in Your Hands, which is a really beautiful song. It's my favourite song, and it really encaptures that verse about just not worrying because your life is in God's hands. Also recently I've been loving this app that my friend recommended me to get that gives you a Bible verse every single day. It's almost as if you're getting a text from God, which I love. So I get it 8 a.m. every morning, I get a little Bible verse to make me smile. But I think God has taught me that there is a plan and I need to not worry about it and to be strong in standing out and telling people I'm a Christian. Another massive thing that God has taught me is that everyone else has a plan for them as well. So whilst you might think what you said to someone was really insignificant and they probably didn't listen to it, someone else might pick up where you left off later on, like maybe they'll meet some other Christians when they go to university or later on in their life. So not to feel deflated in that. With regards to exams and being a Christian, although obviously I still get very stressed, being a Christian helps me put things into perspective and to know that there's so much more ahead of me, and while some things might not go perfectly now, other things will work out later, and that if you just keep your eyes on Jesus, if you keep your eyes on God, no matter what's going on, you will be okay. Faith lived out means applying what you have learnt on a Sunday to the rest of your week, so just taking on board things and keeping them in your mind until you get back to church the next Sunday. Also, I'm really lucky I have loads of opportunities during the week to read the Bible and get stuck in, like with friends, with the Christian Union. My youth group also does a midweek group, and also I often volunteer for the younger kids, and so it's nice to be able to share the Bible with them. In my prayer life, I quite like to write down prayers sometimes, maybe once every 2 weeks, or something really big has happened, and then I can look back through my little book later on and see things that I was worrying about are literally so silly now, or I can also see how God helped that situation and I didn't even realise because I just moved on from it. So that is really important to me. I think we can best be a light in our mission fields by remembering that we're kind of a shop window to God. So when people see us, they see a bit of what God is like, and that can help us to remember that the small things you do have a massive impact and people will see that. When times get a bit more difficult, I definitely pray a lot more and just try to feel joyful about the fact that I have God. Obviously not joyful about the situation, but joyful about having God to help me through that situation. And in some ways, sometimes those hard times make your relationship with God even stronger. Being a light for Jesus looks like not being afraid to be like Jesus as he was distinctive and stood out of the crowd, to not be afraid that sometimes people are going to be like, oh, you think that, or you do this, and just to embrace it and be like, yeah. So I've heard stories about people talk about how they're not turning the other cheeks and they're against violence, things like that, and then people will become a Christian because they're like, that's really cool that they were able to not fight back. I think a practical way to be a light for Jesus is to not take revenge, because that's so hard, but I think if someone does something to you and you don't do anything back, they will really notice that, and then you can try and solve that relationship. As a young person, obviously we don't have a lot of money to be financially generous, but I think we can be generous with our time. If you want to get stuck in with your church, or just being there for people to talk to is so important, and that is a way you can be so generous. If you come from a Christian family, it's really easy to just think, oh yeah, I'm just a Christian because my parents, but I think it's really important to take ownership of your faith, to actively read the Bible yourself, meet up with other Christian friends, so you take it on as your own identity rather than just because of your family. I get to know God more through reading my Bible. I'm not great at doing it every day, and I think it doesn't matter. I think just when it fits, when it works for you. I also think I really work on my relationship with God through the worship music that I listen to as I walk to school. In our society today, when everyone has so many different beliefs and faiths, it's important to show people that how committed you are to your faith, and they can see that. You have to be respectful, obviously, to everyone else, but if they can see your commitment to your faith, I think that's a real shining light, because people change their minds on things all the time, like what they think the meaning of life is. People, so many of my friends have different opinions on this all the time, so if they can see that I'm more consistent, I think that is distinctive. For girls our age, there's still pressures on deciding what you're going to do, on how you look, and so many people care so much about their image, how many followers they have on Instagram, and being seen as cool. And it is really easy to fall into that trap of thinking about that. And having God allows me to take a step back and be like, it doesn't matter what they think of me. If you come back to the idea of people who don't like anything you have to say, I think it's important to remember that you are in the world and not of the world. So you're there to have those conversations, even if they don't feel very nice at the time. And we're so lucky that we live in a country that we can have those conversations. If you're struggling with people who aren't happy with the fact that you are distinctive, that you are a Christian, it's so important to remember you literally have God. He doesn't need you to defend him. He's there to defend you. If you can turn your eyes to him and think about him instead of whatever is going on, you will be okay, as hard as it is. And also just to tell other Christian people, if you are having something like that, just tell people, and they can all help you get through it.